So I do have a disclosure. Intuitive did pay for me to do some education conference type things, and I got food from Medtronic when I was in fellowship. I was like, I don't know, like, what am I'm supposed to put everything that's on the Sun whatever website thing, right? So my talk is called "Who's Going to Teach Me Now?" So I'm on the program committee. We were sort of brainstorming about sessions for this SAGES in Denver, and I was like, just had finished fellowship, and I was like, honestly, I feel completely like at sea. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing to like continue to learn and stay up to date on things. I feel like extremely overwhelmed. So part of this entire session was based off of me saying that. And then when Caitlin and I were going over speakers, she was like, I sort of gave her that impression, I think. And she's like, well, if we have a session on that, like, do you want to do the talk? And I said, sure. So basically, my first slide after the disclosures was about things to think about. Obviously, training is not done when you're done with formal training. The picture that I had up was of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically like you reach a peak of confidence like very early in your career, which on the graph I had, it was chief resident. And then basically the first couple years in practice is like your confidence decreases as your knowledge increases. And then slowly over time, your knowledge increases and your confidence increases as well. But notably, it never gets as high confidence-wise as it was that chief year when your knowledge level was low, right? So yeah, everything you need to know, you learned not in residency, right? There's a lot more to know than that. That being said, there are increasing rates of fellowship training. It's now at like somewhere about 85% of residents graduate and go into fellowship. I don't think that's because there's a major knowledge gap of residency. There's multiple other things at play there. Part of it, I think, is that we don't always feel like we know exactly what we're trying to get into or want to subspecialize in, and that fellowship can help provide some of that. It can also provide another level of mentorship and teaching. But once you finish fellowship, kind of, then what? So the quote I had on here was, use your resources. So Gal will know this. One of our attendings in a residency said this all the time. His name is John Craig Collins, Dr. Collins. So we'd be all sitting together in the ER. There'd be, some disaster case with a crazy looking CT scan, and he'd say, what do we need to do first? And everyone would be like, do this, do that. He'd be like, no, we're going to radiology so we can go over the scan with the radiologist. Use your resources. I'm like, okay, great. So what are your resources after you graduate, right? There's the obvious ones, surgery is still mostly an apprenticeship model. So clearly your former attendings, your former co-residents, those are people you can turn to generally if you have, someone you have a good relationship with. I think some of my favorite text groups that I have are, I think it's called like Residency Class 2018 Best Residents Ever, like yay or something. And there's like 25 of us in it, everyone who was intern up to when I was a chief. And we text each other mostly just like funny memes and stuff, but we also do clinical questions, and we really help each other kind of emotionally, but also with a little bit of CME sometimes. Same thing with fellowship attendings, I think generally are happy to hear from you if you have questions, and don't lose anyone's phone number ever, basically, right? When you join a new practice, I think it can be very difficult. As we've seen, there's multiple different types of practice models you can join. One of the most critical things is your partners that you're going to have, or if you have no partners, right? If you have partners, it's hard to figure out, are they going to be the type of partners that are truly there for you or not, right? But usually there's still some form of relationship. My previous job that I recently just left, we had a great text group thread actually also where we sent each other pictures and said, well, we had billing questions. We would say, what did you bill for this? Or how do you do, your hernias? Or, what's the new ERAS protocol at such and such hospital? And that was a very valuable resource to me as well. You're not on an island ever, technically, right? Another resource is social media. I'm a millennial. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm not here to discuss, but I'm an original Facebook user, sort of proud to say. I got it like freshman year of college when there was only for college students with a .edu email address. So my name is not my real name on Facebook. If you're trying to look for me, that is not my real account. But nonetheless, over time, I think it's kind of morphed into this thing, for me at least, that has a lot of value for teaching and CME actually, and also kind of emotional and social support. I'm in a bunch of different groups that all sort of are part of what I'm interested in. So things that are relevant to me, like being a surgeon and a mom, robotic surgery, bariatric surgery. I'm in SAGE's master's program groups that have all kinds of great posts. I watch videos from these groups. I learn a lot every day. But I do have a lock on my phone that after an hour, it won't let me look at social media anymore. There's obviously specialist societies. SAGE's is fantastic. There's all kinds of things coming through the pipeline, to help you with kind of continuing education that, I could spend more time on, but I won't. Something else that's very kind of relevant to me currently is surgical coaching. So actually, I was lucky enough to attend the entire morning this morning, the SAGE's kind of collaboration with the Academy of Surgical Coaches, and kind of learn kind of a basic how to be a surgical coach. So I got to coach a peer, and she got to coach me, and we had a session with about 30 of us where we learned how to coach. I think this is going to be something that they're going to talk more about for SAGE's, but that new grads especially might derive some value from and get some support through. I used coaches that were free. I've listened to podcasts with coaching. I think there's a lot of value there. There's a very good article that I had a quote on here from by Atul Gawande from The New Yorker. If you Google it, you can read it. It's fantastic. CME, just kind of standard stuff that I had on there, your board certification and maintenance of certification. That's all also evolving and changing, but can be a way of kind of keeping up to date with everything. Obviously, there's up to date. There's a newer one called Stat Pearls that also I think can be very helpful for just like basic clinical questions. And then industry sponsored, I mentioned Intuitive because they actually did provide a lot of educational support for me, not only in fellowship, but in my early practice as well in the last 2 years. I attended courses, I've had proctoring, and just general kind of support in getting my practice started. I think, obviously it's important to take industry things with a grain of salt. That's why you have to have a disclosure slide, right? So you're not a shill or whatever for industry just because they paid for you to, go learn a new technique on their new system or whatever. But I think it's still something to at least be cognizant of as a resource to use. I've made very good kind of mentorship relationships with people who I either went to watch or who came to proctor me, and that relationship extends kind of beyond, just the intuitive, ecosystem. What else? On here, I had a great picture of me from high school from Facebook, so you guys missed out on that. And yeah, honestly, that's pretty much it. I had that nice Atul Gawande quote, so I can read it to you. Knowledge of disease and the science of treatment are always evolving. We have to keep developing our capabilities and avoid falling behind. So the training inculcates an ethic of perfectionism. Expertise is thought to be not a static condition, but one that doctors must build and sustain for themselves. So even when you're done, you should continue to use your resources to keep learning. Thanks.